All right, welcome back to JARVIE's photography existential crisis that I'm having. There's a previous part that we recorded before Casey went to dinner. This is Casey Grimley.
That was good.
Someone that I know that used Nikon and switched to Sony, and that's what I did recently. And everything about my Sony camera, it's sitting over there. I love, except for the colors that was discussed in the previous one. And so maybe, so now I'm begging the people that know and that understand my crisis to help, and I will bribe, I will do whatever. I just need to, I see a world in a certain way. And I'm not an artsy photographer, I'm a documentative type photographer. And I just want to document the way I see it. And I know that it's a bright and maybe more colorful way than most people see it. At least that's what I've been told. And that's just what I love and what I like. And so I'm having some problems. So now we're going to let Casey take the reins and share maybe some tips or thoughts, what he thinks. This is mostly him.
Okay. All right. So I've had a total of, I don't know how long you were talking there, 1 minute, 2 minutes to look at these photos and try and figure out what is making the colors not feel like yours.
You can start with your own pictures and your experience if you want.
Yeah, so let's do that. Can you give me screen sharing?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Why aren't you screen sharing already?
Yeah.
Dummy. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so let me share screen. All right. Can you see my screen now?
I can see your screen, and right now those are 5 pictures I sent. And
these are the 5 that you sent. Let me go to one of mine and just kind of give you a breakdown of what I do here. Let me go find this. This is the one I was working on here. Okay, so this is one of the issues. So Scott and other people of the internets that might be watching this and wanting to learn too, is one of the issues with Sony is, and it's not so much Sony, it's Lightroom, it's Adobe. Adobe, Lightroom, Photoshop, they don't bring in the best colors for Sony. So one thing that I've learned to do is to play around with the colors to kind of get them right. And the best way to do that, I found, is to actually download the Capture One 20 or whatever the current version is right now. I think 21 is just coming out. But for Sony users, there's a Capture One Express is what they call it. And it's kind of a watered down version of their software, but it's got all the same coloring features and stuff. There's just, you don't get layers and a bunch of other fancy features that they've got. But Capture One has the best Sony colors, because I think Sony and Capture One work together to
so now you're on Capture One 20. So
this is Capture One. Let me go to the image that I had. That I've got up there. So this is brought in with the Sony, we'll call it color profile in Capture One. So let me switch back to the other one in Lightroom. So here's Lightroom's, whoops, this is the camera standard profile here.
Yeah.
So that's, if you switch back and forth between the two, this one, the colors are just more pleasant. This one, the colors, you can see there's a green hue.
Oh yeah, totally.
A bit of green in her face. This is more neutral.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a little warmer or if it's just that green is kind of missing. So
yeah, I very much the green when you go back and forth.
Yeah, so you can see that. And so what I've done in the past, because it was driving me crazy that my especially portraits, is the skin tones were getting really weird, especially with weird lighting conditions, sometimes backlit or side lit, or you get light bouncing off of subjects and stuff around. You get color cast, and it would just do weird things. Or people with different skin tones, if people with that are have naturally red hair or red face, it really can kind of mess with the colors. So I found that I would open up Capture One, and I wouldn't do any tweaks to it, and just get a starting point based off that, because the colors look so much better in Capture One as long as it's exposed
Wait,
properly.
go to the
If it's too
settings here.
dark,
Like, is there some sort of settings that are done on Capture One that you import with?
Nope, this is straight raw
Well,
image
what's the
right here.
profile, I guess?
So the profile, if you go to their, I don't know Capture One too well, but so you go to
It
the
says
color
generic, right?
palette here. You go to the Sony A7R3 generic or Sony A7R4 generic, whatever it is.
Yeah, it
And
just
that
says
is
generic
your,
for me.
and so that's it. That's the Sony generic profile that they use. So,
Okay.
and so that's one of the biggest things. And so what I would do, because I still use Lightroom as my editor, just because I'm so ingrained into it, and the different the catalog organization, and the linking with Photoshop, HDR merge, all that stuff. It's hard to get away from it. So what I've done is I'll come over to Adobe, and I'll just come around, and the first thing I do is try and tweak the color, the camera profile. So you notice going from standard to portrait, it's getting a little closer there. Or camera light. I find camera light or camera portrait is what I'll use quite a bit. So between those two for portrait. So I'll get that as a starting point, just to get rid of some of that green hue. And then I'll tweak the white balance too. So sometimes, I'll have to bump it up just to get rid of that green. And just a little tweak will help here or there.
That's a per picture sort of thing. That's annoying.
No, so yeah, I mean it's per picture, but you can, like you were saying, Scott, you can go through and create your own picture profile. So you can do that through Camera Raw or whatever.
Because I don't know of any way to do a preset where it's like, okay, camera, whatever you did plus 4 tint.
Right. Yeah.
It's only a specific tint number that they will do. It's like, I just need a +4, like a add 4 to whatever it was,
Yeah. Yeah, and I typically, like for this set here, so I've got a bunch of these images, of her sitting on the wall here and different poses and stuff. So I'll figure out one and sync all the settings, and that's usually the first thing I do is I adjust the color. The other thing that I'll find doing, especially with people that have reddish skin or a different scene, a red shirt, is to play around with the HSL sliders. And usually it's just on the red, it's usually up maybe 5 or something like that.
Okay, yeah. That's where I've been thinking too.
Take the saturation down just a touch.
Yeah.
Maybe not for this image, because I don't think she has that problem, but usually for, let's go hop over to that one of your other photos here that you sent me that was having the red issue. Let's see if I can find it here.
Go to your most recent import.
Yeah. I thought I created a catalog for it. Let's go to this one. So this one I reset. So here's your settings or your edit.
My temp, yeah.
And here's the reset. So camera, you got portrait.
So red.
Right. He's still pretty red. I think he's got fairly red skin here. So I would do portrait, but then just play around with the sliders, and you can always do the, you know, this and take it in there and maybe desaturate a little bit. Again, this is more of a starting point, so I wouldn't, because you're going to add contrast and stuff that's going to bring out more of those colors. But if you can get it, my thing is I try and get the image flat with the colors, and then afterwards I'll go and add the contrast. And you know, as you add contrast and dehaze and up the whites and down the blacks and stuff, it pulls that color back in. So the HSL sliders, I've found that tweaking those just ever so slightly will get those weird skin tones to kind of even out. So there's, you know, I don't know if there's a preset way to do that. I mean, you probably could create presets. You know, people with red skin, you have the desaturation down a touch or whatever else. But that's how I've kind of dealt with the camera colors from Sony.
Yeah. Those yellows were so bright and colorful yesterday. This was yesterday. It's just, they were, you know, nice fall, bright, colorful. That's not how I remember them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe he had redder skin. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to it. I don't remember it being that way. I don't remember having too much trouble with too many people's in the last 12 years with like, oh my gosh, your skin's so red, you know? There's some lighting situations I have trouble with. But it just is frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know what to, on, you know, on some of these, like this one is just, I think it's, the saturation is just like that red is just really hitting.
And everything about it is so, it looks like dirty old fall. And I'm like, no, some of those colors were pretty bright. Some of them were old fall, like, you know, the leaves have fallen sort of thing. But some of it was like really bright and colorful, and I had him sit there because it was so nice behind him. And in this picture, it doesn't look like his background is nice, let alone the problems of his skin color. And I'm starting to wonder if it's the gamma setting that I chose on Sony. It's screwing everything up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could be on those ones. Then you say some of these other ones were.
It must have been on something else, because that skin color looks normal to me.
Yeah, this looks.
It looks like real life to me.
Yeah, yeah, this looks spot on. These look pretty good as well.
The yellows, well, I guess that was a little bit of a dirty fall.
Yeah.
The green, I don't know. Maybe it's just that time of the year that not everything is. Yeah. Something a little bit off to me. That just is so off. I don't get it. I don't get it, Casey.
Reset this one here and see. So that was your starting.
Yeah. My attempt may be when I get my color card, my new color card tomorrow that has the 24 images that will work for the DNG profile editor. DNG color profile editor by Adobe. So then I'm going to try to get someone to, you know, and I'm going to take pictures with all sorts of gamma settings and a couple of different lightings and go to town testing it out, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've never, like I told you earlier, I've never really messed around with the gamma settings other than for video.
Yeah.
because I haven't ever really, I mean, there's been those issues where it's like, okay, the color is, there's too much green here. What the heck is going on? What,
The reds are a little off.
what's causing this? The reds are a little off or whatever it is. And I've always just, I've always figured, okay, it's something with my settings in Lightroom, whether I'm using the camera standard or camera light or camera portrait or Adobe color. I tend to avoid the Adobe ones just because they are so, I don't know, flat, or I don't know what the word would be there, but I just don't like them as well as, yeah, they're muted. So yeah, and I found that, like I said, is when I've done this with Capture One and compared them, I'll go back and forth and go, okay, well, the camera light or camera portrait gets there most of the way, and if I tweak my whites and blacks, it gets it the rest of the way. So
is there anything else in Capture One that you tend to do, or is it just a good example of, hey, look, Capture One brings it in already looking better?
Yeah, I don't really, I've done some editing in Capture One, but no, I don't really go around and tweak it too much, because
what's this Express thing that you're talking about for Sony?
So the Capture One Express is the free version for Sony.
Oh, I don't know they had that.
So yeah, so you, it's basically what you see here. There's no layers. There's no, I think there is some catalog management, but I don't know if I can tether and do some other things that they tout on their full version. But yeah, it's basically, I use it every once in a while to just bring in an image that is really I'm struggling with, and I'll bring it in and see what the Sony profile it should look like. Because yeah, Lightroom just doesn't do the Sony profiles very well. Doesn't do them justice.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's people out there that have profiles built for Sony for us to download.
Yeah, I don't know if there's profiles. I haven't ever looked for them, because I've always just found what I found and tweaked it as I need to. I think I shoot a little bit differently than you, Scott, and maybe that's what's coming into play. Is when I shoot a session, I go through and I sync the settings, and I probably play around a little bit more than you do, whereas you maybe a little bit more of a bulk shooter, and but I'll play around. I'll get to a different image, and even in the same set, and I'll play with the tone curves a little bit more, and do some different fades or things like that. And
yeah, definitely my experience in the past was I never changed. Like when I imported them, it had like my preset, like the JARVIE look,
yeah.
And then I would dodge and burn, brighten up faces by and then dodge and burn and put a little vignette around it and just brighten and dark, and then sharpen and soften some spots, and that was mostly it. Everything was kind of brush related.
Yeah.
From time to time, there may be a little bit of temperature, and there was sometimes exposure changes, but those were always like, okay, specific maybe to that, because I was shooting dark because there was something really bright, and I needed to shoot dark so that it wasn't overexposing the skies, so I brought up something,
Yeah.
But other than that, I wasn't doing anything else really, unless I wanted to pump contrast a little bit through something like whites or the blacks or the tone curve maybe sometimes, or a little bit of dehaze. All those things kind of impacted contrast. It was like, this picture can have a little bit more without going too over the top. I was on the edge of being too much, a lot of the time, but I was on the safe side of the edge, I believe.
Yeah.
So I didn't do much. Dodge and burn can sometimes take a little bit of time, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but that was like the max, you know,
Yeah.
that I'd spend on a picture. How frustrating it would be to have to do every picture a different edit. Not with the quantities that I do.
Yeah. And I think it's because, like I said, you shoot different. You're shooting more weddings. I haven't shot a wedding. I shot one this year, and you know that the batch edit thing really does come into play. But most of the time I'm shooting portraits, and I'm not terribly busy or stressed for time, because this is part-time, so I can play a little bit more, you know, and tweak around with edits and stuff. And I try and get images of the same, like if I shot 3 or 4 images in this setting right here, I would get them to look the same. But if I, you know, switch to another one where maybe they're in a different setting, I might tweak it and go with something a bit different. So,
well, I appreciate your suggestions, and it actually helps validate that I was on the HSL, that I was like, oh, I got to go up a little bit on the hue on the red. And I thought about the camera light. I was like, is that good? Do I like that? But since you like it a lot, I'm going to try to make that maybe my base by going to camera light. I had actually started using camera portrait a lot. I mean, if you know, my Nikon settings was never anything but camera vivid.
Vivid, yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well,
Yeah, and you see what
camera vivid here. But I was like, no, I don't like that. And so I was
Yeah.
aiming towards camera portrait a lot more.
And that's how I was too when I shot Nikon. As I shot a lot, it was either camera landscape or camera vivid. And when I switched to Sony, it was like, I can't do that. The vivid just looks dirty. You know, I just switched it here on this image, and it was just like,
it doesn't. Vivid doesn't look vivid.
No, it doesn't.
Messy. It looks dark and not bright and happy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Nikon's camera vivid was bright and happy, and yeah.
So yeah, the camera light and the camera portrait, especially the camera portrait, you can see really flattens your colors. If you look at his face there, when I go from light to portrait, it's, you know, it really flattens out the reds. There's not that highlight and dark difference there. So.
Okay, well, I've got some tasks to try to do tomorrow. And get some pictures, find someone to take pictures of. Holding the new card and trying out some different things. So.
Sounds good.
Appreciate your help. Anyone else has opinions on what I could try and do, or let me know, let us know.
Okay.
Peace out, everybody. Good night, everybody.